Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is now just weeks away from its official release by Disney, Lucasfilm, J.J. Abrams, and even creator George Lucas. That is all set and ready to end the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 that a lot of fans are very curious about is exactly how J.J. Abrams is going to handle many of the different twists in this film that will lead to saga-wide implications and change how we view some of the past 8 Star Wars movies that come before this one that make up the entire Skywalker saga besides Episode 9. Now, this movie is not only important to Disney and Lucasfilm as companies, but also to the entire Star Wars community, because this movie is not only going to determine the future of the Star Wars franchise, but it's also going to determine exactly how the sequel trilogy as a whole really is when you look at it in its entirety. Now, this movie does have a lot of revelations coming our way, which, by the way, is what Anthony Daniels said and Eunice Watamo, that the entire movie is I did not see this coming moment and is full of secrets that will have implications on the past movies. Now, with that being said, what's really intriguing has all to do with the ending of Episode 9 and a handful of twists and turns around Palpatine and others. Now, specifically, shot descriptions consisting of a sequence where it's explained that Ben Solo is said to be rushing over to Rey's aid, where he senses that Rey is in trouble when she is confronting Palpatine on the world of Exegol, where Ben Solo eventually fights and kills the Knights of Ren. This is where Kylo Ren begins to make his way down to Palpatine's throne room and begins to witness Palpatine trying to trick Rey over to the dark side of the Force. This is where it's explained that Ben Solo stands in front of Rey and defends her from Sidious, where Sidious begins to put both Rey and Ben Solo into a Force freeze state, where he then begins to give them a lecture about his past. It's explained that Palpatine and his way of survival from Darth Vader throwing him down the second Death Star had to do with a power that he learned from the Beyond. It's explained that Palpatine found a way to create a portal, a wormhole if you will, as he was falling down the generator of the second Death Star, where Sidious explains that he just survived the fall from the second Death Star, where he created a wormhole that would connect to the unknown regions. It's said that Palpatine knew he would eventually need to use this at one point in time or another. However, what Palpatine did not expect was Darth Vader, his own apprentice, turning against him. Palpatine unveils that using the power weakened him and that it took years to recover from using such a power, and that the power of the Beyond is said to decay the body rapidly over time. Now, the portal that Palpatine was able to create was actually said to be done by learning this power at one of the Dark Temples that Sidious traveled to at one point in time before Return of the Jedi, and that here is where Sidious learned of how to create a wormhole to the world of Exegol. Sidious was actually said to have created a backup plan and a base on Exegol, and was also described to be a place that an ancient Sith Lord once lived, and that his new throne in the movie, as fans saw in the trailers, was actually once for the ancient Sith Lord. Additionally, it's explained that Sidious goes on to explain to both Rey and Ren that his master Darth Plagueis is in the spiritual realm, and was able to reveal to Sidious that he found the way to eternal life. However, Sidious wanted another way to live in the mortal world by using an ability called Force Conduit. It's explained that Ben Solo and Palpatine are actually going to be a big part of the film in the ending of Episode 9, where Palpatine unveils that, of course, within, the actual third act of the film, that he unveils to Ben Solo that he has actually been watching over Ben Solo ever since he was a baby and within Leia before he was even born, and that from the very start, Sidious knew Ben Solo had dark side tendencies, where Sidious also unveils that he had even had a new apprentice during his time on Exegol who went out to the Beyond and never returned, which was the main reason why Palpatine needed Kylo Ren as his new apprentice. Sidious unveils that his time on Exegol allows time to move faster, where it may seem to others that he has actually been gone for 30 plus years. Meanwhile, for Palpatine and through his perception, it's more like only around 10 years, maximum, prepping for his new Sith Empire from the remnants of the Imperial fleet that went to the unknown regions after the Battle of Endor to create a new empire. So let's go over a couple of parts about this and as to why I think that some of this may divide fans and really change fans' perception on the original trilogy. Now, at the very end of Episode 6, alright, it is an iconic moment where you believe that Anakin Skywalker made a very, right decision by sacrificing himself, essentially by destroying the Sith once and for all. However, in Episode 9, it's actually described that Palpatine did not really die, and that he survived the fall of the second Death Star by creating that wormhole. That blue energy that you do in fact see in the generator, in that deep chasm within the second Death Star, is actually the energy from him opening a wormhole to travel over to the world of Exegol. And it really does make a lot of sense now, because it was never really explained in great detail as to exactly what that energy really was, rising from the very bottom. Sure, it could have been Palpatine blowing up from his Force lightning, but now it makes a lot of sense as to what it really is in its entirety. So the other piece that I do want to go over here that I think a lot of fans are going to be very divided over as well is the fact that, of course, Palpatine was able to create that wormhole and survive for 30 plus years in hiding. Now, it really does make one wonder, why wouldn't Palpatine just come back? Because the Empire was still, pretty much alive and well, after the Battle of Endor. Sure, they didn't have a ruler, or sure, they didn't have, an actual person ruling the galaxy. There was no Darth Vader, there's no Palpatine. Palpatine was stuck over in the unknown regions. That's the main reason as to why he could not make his way back over to the Outer Rim or other territories of the galaxy. So they are going to explain exactly how Palpatine survived, and that seems to be the explanation by J.J. Abrams. Now, a lot of fans have always wanted to see something different, maybe more around the lines of Palpatine being a spirit, which, by the way, was a part of the original cut of this movie where he would take over the body of the Dark Acolyte. Now he's back in the flesh in Episode 9, which I think a lot of fans are going to have a lot of different opinions on that, and are really going to have mixed reactions, or mixed feelings, if you will, about that decision by Disney and Lucasfilm. So the other piece that I actually want to tap into is the fact that Darth Plagueis actually found a way to eternal life, and that Darth Plagueis is trapped within the spiritual realm. Now, we've seen this in the Darth Vader comics, that the spiritual realm is a real thing, and that now it makes a lot of sense as to exactly why Disney and Lucasfilm, wanted to explore that in the comics before the release of The Rise of Skywalker, is that Sidious is going to unveil to both Rey and Ben Solo that even his own master found a way to eternal life. However, he is stuck in the spiritual realm. He couldn't find a way to live forever in the mortal world, but that's what Palpatine wants. He wants to live in the mortal world, and that's where the Force conduit technique comes into play. Now, this is a power that is connected over to the Beyond that's going to allow him to drain the energy of two powerful Force users, that of course being Rey and Kylo Ren. The fact that Palpatine has been watching over Ben Solo ever since he was a baby, and even before he was even born, and within Leia, is rather creepy, and the fact that Leia initially thought that that was Snoke, it was really Palpatine. Now, this was actually hinted at in the book, The Force Awakens novelization, that Leia even sensed Snoke watching over Ben Solo before he was born. In reality, it was really Sidious watching over Ben Solo before he was born. And until the time was right, Palpatine even had another apprentice during his time in the unknown regions that actually went missing during his travels to the Beyond. So it makes you wonder, whatever happened to Palpatine's secret apprentice that we never met and that we never saw in the Star Wars franchise, that hopefully will be explained further in books, novels, comics, and maybe even video games or a future TV series, whatever have you, right? So the last thing I just want to touch on here that I think a lot of fans are really going to be very curious about is, of course, exactly how did Palpatine learn this power? Well, he learned it from one of the Dark Temples over in the unknown regions. But specifically, how was Palpatine literally able to learn about this power to create wormholes? Now, most likely it does indeed connect to what we saw in Star Wars Rebels, and how he was able to perform the, iconic part where he's trying to get Ahsoka Tano and Ezra Bridger as they're trying to escape the worlds between worlds. So there's a lot of things going on in this movie, and how it connects to Star Wars Rebels, and how it's going to connect to certain books within the Disney canon, and a whole lot more. So with that being said, guys, I would like to hear what you have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.